This is a piece of my family history going back over 100 years ago, a story about my great-great-grandfather Alfred Edward Bignell. Alfred was born on the 19th of September 1890 in London, England. Little was known about his early life, but when war was declared on the 5th of August 1914, it can be assumed a man of his age would have been filled with both excitement and concern for friends and family. Just prior to enlisting in the Royal Marines on the 25th of October 1915, Alfred married my great-great-grandmother, Picard, on the 18th of September 1915. He undertook specialised training in military communications at Blandford Camp in Dorset. In early 1916, Alfred was re-mustered into the Royal Engineers as a sapper. He was then posted to France in early 1916 in time for the Battle of the Somme. Fought between July 1st and November 11th of 1916, the Battle of the Somme was one of the bloodiest military battles in history. On the first day alone, the British suffered more than 57,000 casualties. Whilst Alfred was in combat, he was required to undertake a variety of military engineering duties, such as bridge building, laying or clearing minefields, demolitions and field defences. However, his training at Blandford saw him become specialised in line communications. He was responsible for installing and maintaining communication cables and links across the battlefront and to the rear to the higher levels of command. This was the role he carried out for the duration of his time in France. Although Alfred did not speak much about the war, he did recount the time of his survival in 1918. Alfred, amongst other soldiers, was still in the trenches for fear of a surprise German attack. It was then that two of Alfred's friends invited him to join them whilst they inspected a knocked-out German tank that was sighted in no man's land in front of the trenches. He declined, saying he was too busy sorting gear. Plus, as a married man, he was hoping to be repatriated soon, so couldn't afford the risk, particularly at this stage of the war. He watched his friends disappear over the trench, cross the field and climb into the tank, when an explosion was heard. The tank was a trap, and his friends were both killed. Had he have gone with them, the course of our family history may have ended there in the Somme. After the war, Alf returned back to London to his wife Ida and was discharged in the rank of corporal. He was awarded 2 medals for his service to king and country. Ironic that even though Alfred never spoke of the war, he named his first son Edward Douglas Blandford, my great-grandfather, after General Sir Douglas Haig, GOC Land Forces, and Blandford Camp in Dorset, where he trained in 1915. Together, Alf, Ida and Edward migrated to New Zealand, where they settled in Gisborne in 1922. Ted, who would later marry my great-grandmother, Joan, and give birth to my grandfather, Jeff. During the course of events that occurred at the Battle of the Somme, Alfred came into the possession of a brass candlestick, which is believed to have been recovered from the ruins of the Cathedral of Amiens. However, it was not recorded how he actually came into possession of it, so it could have been salvaged from the ruins of any cathedral in the wider area. No items would be brought back home during the war, but Alf managed to sneak the candlestick home to England in a pair of socks, which then carried on with him to New Zealand. The candlestick was kept in possession of the family and has been passed on to my grandfather Jeff, which he still has today. During a trip to France in 2013, my pop Jeff was able to tour the major battle sites and military cemeteries at the Somme. He also visited the Caterpillar Cemetery, where on the surrounding walls are the names of over 2,000 New Zealanders with no known graves. My pop described this as both an overwhelming emotional and spiritual experience. Whilst there, my pop also visited the cathedral at Amiens, which he knew Alfred had visited during his time in France. He and his comrades would have most likely been visiting looking for materials such as wire and timber, as well as the odd item of loot. There at the cathedral, my pop met a local who identified himself as being responsible for church property. Jeff recounted the story of how the candlestick had been in possession of the family for nearly 100 years. Pop admitted that he had always thought that the candlestick had been stolen, and he saw this trip as the ideal opportunity to return the candlestick to its rightful owners and put to rest ghosts of the past. Pop's new friend couldn't trace its exact origin, but said brassware was a common use in the churches and cathedrals for over 400 years. However, in the early 1960s, about the time of Vatican II, a lot of brassware tended to be disposed of in French churches. He declined the offer to return the candlestick and instead suggested to keep it within the family as a fitting reminder of the sacrifices made by so many, from all 4 corners of the globe, to defend freedom and democracy. A fitting reminder of the sacrifices our ancestor, my great-great-grandfather, Sapper Alfred Edward Bignell, made for us over 100 years ago.
try.